I don't know. What am I saying? Who are you? What's your name?
I don't know.
What do people
I don't know.
need to know?
Maybe we should go and listen to other podcasts and see how they start. Hello, welcome to La Pod. It's a brand new podcast we're going to be putting out from down here in the basement of La Pub twice a month. We're going to be talking to our staff, our community, local bands, local artists, and anyone we think is interesting.
Yes, welcome to episode number 10 of La Pod, the big 10, the one we've all been waiting for. 10 whole episodes of La Pod. I feel like it's an achievement. Boggles my mind. Oh, there's an ice cream van going by. You wanted to get in on the sense of achievement, apparently. Boggles my mind, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by an ice cream van, that people like Joe Rogan and Scroobius Pip and all those big hitters are on like 300 or whatever, but still, 10 is 10 and no one can take it away from me. Take it away from us, I should say, La Pod listeners. Anyway, episode 10, we are joined by Quiet Marauder. Not all of them, there's a lot of them. We're joined by the singer, the face, one half of the songwriting duo behind Quiet Marauder, Simon Read. And it's a class conversation. For anyone who's seen Quiet Marauder live, you'll know that they're, I think it's fair to say, eccentric. An eccentric band, but without being a novelty band at all. Their songs are humorous, but they kind of contain lots of social commentary and stuff, and we talk about that during the conversation. And as usual, we talk about all sorts, including
the Bonzos, just because they did things in a really funny way, masked, I think, a lot of the social commentary that's embedded in their material. The more I know my own identity, the more I know that it's completely not fixed. That's this toxic masculinity element, isn't it? It's sort of like it spreads from this kind of seemingly innocuous start point to being something kind of really dark and nasty.
Cool. Quite a long conversation. Not super long. It's not overly long. It's arguably the perfect length. But I want to not take up too much of your time and get straight ahead into the conversation. So, yeah. One more thing. In our social media kind of push-in of this episode of the pod, we said that their song Eggs had over 50,000 streams on Spotify, which is a remarkable achievement. I'll give them that. Something I could only ever dream of, and believe me, I do dream of it. But a little hint, a little teaser into next episode, if Spotify streams and numbers are your thing, next episode's guest have over 25 million streams on just one song. Yeah, I'd tune in as well. Right, before we get ahead of ourselves, here is this week's episode, Simon Read of Quiet Marauder. Cheers. You think?
Oh,
can you hear my voice? Yeah? Oh.
Yeah,
we're good.
I can hear you. Can you tell by my eyes? I can hear you. I look really delayed. So is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. We won't be putting out the video. It'll just be the audio. So
that's good. I look like a tramp anyway. I'm kind of relieved, to be honest. Wow. I can have a beer.
As long as your voice is silky smooth and ready to go, then that's all we need.
I believe so. I mean, let me just clear my throat. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely fine, Ben.
Yeah,
let's do this.
You want to do any like warm-ups, vocal warm-ups before we start?
It'll probably just make my voice worse in the end. It'll just like cause me to have more coughing later on. It's inevitable. But I've got 2 beers, so I should be able to keep myself lubricated.
Yeah, happy days. 2 beers as well. Cool.
I know.
We can have a marathon conversation. Yeah, so how have you been doing? You kind of asked me already before we had our technical meltdown. How are you?
Yeah, no, I've been okay. Surprisingly okay. Like it's I've just been locked down with my girlfriend, so I've got company. So that's one thing.
Nice. Are you in Cardiff still, or?
Yes, I'm still in Cardiff in Grangetown. I've not left at all, as you might expect.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've just been here in the house, sort of staring at the same bricks, kind of. But
I was just looking at the bricks behind you, actually. That's quite a cool...
they're very similar.
Brick finish. Yeah.
I'm normally doing it downstairs, like 2 floors down. but it's very similar looking bricks. Although the more you look at them, the more you can see. That's what I've noticed. So it's interesting. I'm starting to see lots of different things that I never expected to
Yeah,
see in my own
the
wall.
the intricacies of bricks.
Yeah. Some of them just look like crazy, like cartoon pigs, or like one looks like, a few of them together look like a sort of strange, abstracted human face. I'm expecting it to sort of merge out of the wall towards me at
To
some point.
jump at you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good moment.
It was funny when I was kind of researching for this episode. I was wondering because we'll get onto it, but Quiet Marauder have quite the history of concepts in their albums, and I was wondering how do you come up with this kind of stuff? But if you can come up with that just from staring at a blank brick wall,
Well, it's
then that
funny.
kind of answers my question.
Yeah, it's funny when you mention it because I am thinking of making that sort of idea into an album because I've named the guy who's coming out of the wall now. He's called
Oh,
Malcolm.
okay,
Yeah, so
Malcolm.
yeah,
Oh.
Malcolm Del Monte. But and he's got like the man from Del Monte from like the adverts when I was growing up. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
yeah,
if you ever saw him. The guy in the white suit and the white hat and the white
yeah,
boots.
yeah,
But he's just me. He's like a cheeky version of me, and then and I'm kind of confused by him. But my girlfriend can't see him, and so
No,
we
not
got
at
this kind
all.
of like
You're on your own.
there's lots of awkward moments. I've started writing songs from Malcolm's perspective, and we're kind of doing duets at certain points as well. So I don't know quite how it's going to end up.
That's amazing. So
Mm.
he's a friendly character that emerges from the wall because he
Kind
sounds
of.
terrifying to me. But
He is terrifying. That's good, but he's also friendly. So like he's kind of like the child. Well, no, the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was just terrifying.
yeah, yeah,
But like I
right.
suppose I think at the time he was kind of meant to be friendly, and he looks kind of smart. He looks like he's at least the part. He's like someone you should trust.
Dressed up for the occasion.
But he's obviously just a version of me that's sort of thriving to get out during the pandemic, like that can do it. And so he's encouraging me to like spit in people's eyes and like spit in my hand and shake hands with the shopkeeper and stuff like that. And I'm going like, no, Malcolm, we can't.
He's your kind of evil inner psyche trying to break out through the
Yeah.
metaphorical wall.
And I'm thinking of involving my girlfriend as like another character in the sort of play, if she's up for it. I haven't really talked too much about it to her.
A play as well. So we're going to go with a multimedia kind of offering. With
Well,
this.
I call it a play. I mean, all of our albums are kind of either like theatre pieces or plays or whatever. You know, so it's kind of like it'll never turn out to be a play, but in my head it could be. And so, and so I'll integrate.
Do you have that as like an actual ambition? Like, would you like to do that? Or
I think the perfect one was we already did The Crack and What It Meant.
Yeah.
With Matthias and he would be a great narrator, and he was a great narrator when we played it live.
He was. His voice is fantastic for it.
So good, and so
Yeah.
And so having him on the side of the stage is doing things as we sort of act out this bigger sort of play, because it's kind of, it was intended there'd be like more songs than there were. It's just that it felt like it was getting a bit too long, and people criticised our first album. So we sort of listened to the critics, and we sort of decided that maybe like 90 tracks was too long. It's less than 100, but
It's debatable.
yeah. And so we just kind of I think that would be the perfect one. But it's always like in my head, most of the albums are stories at least, and so they could be whatever kind of cultural form you want if you just want to build the bones around a story. We just tend to just stick to music and words and things. So it's kind of it's just easier that way a lot of the time. More costly doing theatre.
Oh, for sure, and it's costly enough doing albums at times as well. So
yeah, sure. I mean, I think we kind of, in terms of making them, we tend to sort of do them fairly cheap, even if they're quite ambitious. And so it's only like the shorter ones, we could tend to spend a little bit more time in the studio, proper studios, not like my one that we just saw doesn't work that effectively. And so it's kind of those kind of short-term ones, which are more kind of like conceptual or think pieces for 7 or 9 tracks or whatever. You can send those out quite easily into a studio and just do those with somebody who knows what they're doing. But for the longer ones, you can't really spend like 8 months in a studio without it just being like too costly. So it's good to have your own setup, and sort of even if you want to expand on the initial idea and sort of make it bigger, then you can just do that yourself.
Provides you that freedom, yeah. I was going to come back to The Crack and What It Meant kind of later on, but we've already jumped in, so let's go for it, man. How kind of explain the concept of that album, if you could.
So I mean, it's about a rip in time and space that happens in the suburbs of Kent around the time of Brexit.
Right.
And it's kind of just looking at the social response to that, but it's obviously you got this kind of sci-fi unexplained mystery element to it, because what is this mysterious crack? Where does it come from? And
Yeah.
that's sort of dealt with in the first sort of few songs, really, or not to any sort of large degree, but it's sort of everyone knows it's like a rip in time and space, and but so it's more about how do people respond to it and sort of the chaos that
The
happens.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you follow sort of these false idols who think they know what's going on, and it's kind of, it could be applied to the pandemic as much as it could do for Brexit. You know, it's kind of just a
True.
crisis kind of album where you kind of have people panicking, and then you get these kind of strange social responses to it.
Yeah. And like you say, it does seem kind of allegorical to Brexit. Was it inspired by Brexit, or was it on the cards before that?
It's so odd because, like, I tell you what, I started writing that immediately after finishing our debut, which is probably finished in about 2013. So I did it.
Never. No way.
Honestly,
No idea.
and it was like, I think it was one moment where it crystallized that actually it was a Brexit album. It happened a lot of after Brexit, and it was again with Matthias, because he comes and visits whenever he tours and stuff. And
Yeah.
he was going like, "Why did you pick Kent as the location?" And I just sort of randomly suggested it to myself, and then
It was
went
just there.
and then like 2 years later, it turned out to be a sort of a central focal point for Brexit
What are
and
the
the story.
chances?
I know. I kind of like, and as it was only like even a couple of days after he mentioned it, that I started thinking, like, that's strange, isn't it? That my brain sort of preconceived of all the details of this story.
Yeah.
And it's sort of it still it sticks with me. Like, am I some sort of like soothsayer? Have I been tricked by myself?
Yeah.
Because the whole point is that there's this guy called Daniel, and he goes sort of crazy in terms of his self-righteousness and how correct he is about this whole situation. But in reality, like, he just hasn't got a clue what's going on any more than anyone else. He's just a tramp outside of Lidl who had the right sign at the right time. All the random nonsense he could have written, he just wrote the right thing, and there was a record of it. And so I kind of feel like him. Towards the end of the album, I was starting to feel I'm actually Daniel in this
Kind of self-prophetic.
Yeah, it was so many layers to it, man. I was kind of buried underneath them all.
It's making me kind of wonder what your next album's going to be about, though. Is that going to be predicting the next kind of cataclysmic world event?
Well, it's funny because we just got our new album ready now for release. It's going to come out within. It's going to come out in April, I think.
Oh, okay. But you guys only just released. Is it an album or an EP?
That
it's
was
9 tracks, but you're calling it an EP.
Yeah, I was kind of calling it an album, but
that's what I thought it was.
Our label said an EP, so I guess in the context of Men, which is like the really long album, it's relatively an EP, but
it's tiny. Yeah, it's extremely short.
I think the sampler we sent out with that was 20 songs long, so I mean it's shorter than the sampler. Go away, but I'd still call it an album. But yeah, we basically January and February before the pandemic, we were very busy in the studio because we actually went into studio. So we did like Tiny Men parts with Tom Rees from Buzzard in Rat Trap, which is great. He's amazing. And then we went to Italy about a week later, actually, sort of in between the two sessions we did with Tom. We went to Italy and met the guys from the Burning Hell again. They're like our best buddies. And so we spent like 4 days out in a place called Rio Freddo near Rome in an Art Deco villa, sort of just doing this album that I kind of started writing about an orphan. I laughed after I said orphan because it's not because I'm laughing at the concept of an orphan though. It's like, it's just I've just realised that it's awful that I'm saying it anyway. But anyway, I saw about an orphan who's got visions of a house fire that they think are going to happen in their future, and they're really kind of scared of it and anxious about it. And they're sort of talking about their foster parents, and they go through all the rigmarole that you'd see. But then it starts going into sort of time bending superpower kind of mode, and she starts visiting this house fire in her imagination or in her visions, but leaves a version of her own self there each time and then comes back. And so in the end, there's like this house fire with like almost infinite versions of this girl, orphan, trying to unsolve this mystery of why is she thinking about this house fire all the time.
Man.
It's quite dark.
Like, it's dark. It's really interesting. But how, like... You tell me that concept, and in my mind, that sounds like a book. That sounds like a novel. But when you come up with those ideas, do you automatically put them into song format, or do you write them down kind of in paragraphs first and then split them up into songs, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's varied over time. So I normally sort of, when I approach an album, say, I'd kind of do it with a step first, where it would be you got to have a concept which you kind of is driving you to some degree. You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, and it gives you a story. You may not be complete, but you kind of got a rough place to go. And so then you
So
can
has that always been the way for all of your previous stuff so far? You've had a concept and then you've gone from there.
sort of, yeah. I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
Say, I think Johnny and I were co-writing quite a lot of material in the early days, and
Yeah.
Matt as well to some degree. And so, like, we weren't all conjoined on the same story necessarily, but we were kind of understanding the rough theme of where we were going. And sometimes
Yeah.
it was very specific, and other times it was quite loose. So it'd be like, we just want to talk about what men think, and as disgusting or insane as it may be, we want to try and capture all that complexity. And some of us are good at going in one direction and sort of doing certain things, and others were better at just sort of sticking to certain zones. And it was fantastic. I have to say, I enjoyed that process. It was very exciting. But
Yeah.
since then, we've mainly sort of focused in our albums they've been conceptual in more of a kind of stricter story driven sense, I guess.
Yeah.
So apart from Tiny Men Parts, which is kind of a sort of like a separate thing altogether, pretty much every album since has been sort of either about love or specifically around love and all the weirdness of that, or the crack and Brexit,
Yeah.
or this gift is called The Gift, the album we're doing, and
The new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's also sort of, like you say, it's story driven, like you say, it's kind of, it's got this narrative that's guiding it, and then the songs kind of are just sort of these dots along the line of that narrative where you kind of place yourself. And it's hard trying to complete a story, so you can never really do it in an album. That's what's quite fun about it, because you kind of leave bits out, and you can't possibly complete it in the way you'd hope, but you kind of have to give the impression of it to some degree.
Yeah. And I guess kind of an inherent quality of songs is that they kind of speak to people in different ways. They mean different things to different people, which is interesting when you're trying to tell a story, because then that story becomes slightly different to different people that are listening.
Exactly. I think it's kind of hard, isn't it? Because I found that with like the crack, there were no singles in the crack. Because it was like the best singles we could find was one about a guy going on a dog walk, and another one which is like a TV presenter in sort of asking what happened to science from loads of like tweets that have come in. So
not the most commercial album, you could say.
and I think it's kind of, it's what's good about The Gift is that there's some songs, because the narrative sort of really focused on a fire, that it's kind of allegorical and metaphorical in so many different ways. It can mean lots of different things to different people, and so there's certain songs there which aren't so specific as to be sort of like only confined to that realm. You can actually sort of see them as meaning something to you as well, about if you haven't got a dog, for instance.
Not that specific. Oh, that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to it. When does it come out?
It's definitely,
you got a date?
Yeah, the date is in April. I don't know the exact date. I should have researched it myself. I've only just sort of found out. But we have got a single, I think, coming out on the 12th of February. The thing I should say as well is that because it's a female orphan who is being represented here, I didn't feel comfortable sort of going that young, because I'm 40 now, so I can't possibly represent a 15-year-old girl.
Inhabit the mind of a 15-year-old girl. Yeah.
No, but then
as wacky as Quiet Marauder sometimes is, that's a step too far.
5 years ago, it wouldn't have put me past. I wouldn't put it past me to sort of do a voice transformer effect on me and just pretend that I was that would have definitely been the go-to. But my girlfriend was up for singing it, so she actually took on the role of the 15-year-old orphan. There is still a bit of age disparity, but at least we've crossed like another sort of gender representation issue.
Yeah, interesting. I thought you were gonna, because you said that you recorded it with the Burning Hell. I thought you were gonna say that. Oh, I've forgotten her name from the
Ariel,
Burning Hell.
Yeah.
Ariel. I thought that she was going to do it or something, but I guess I haven't met your girlfriend, but I guess she'll nail the role.
She did a great job, man. It was actually kind of emotional hearing her sing, like, because I wrote the songs, but and she obviously sort of then changed them slightly to make them more sort of suit her cadence and how she sort of sings.
Okay.
And so, but most of the time they're pretty intact. And so hearing her sort of slight deviations on it, and how she made it better than I did was sort of, as I was sat upstairs on the headphones go, it was emotional, both a sort of annoying and sort of rewarding level. Because I thought, well done, Deesh, but like, shit, like, you're really good at this. Like, and it makes my voice sound like bad when I do my songs.
Had you worked together before on like any musical projects or?
She's been in the
Yeah.
band for
Oh, is
that
she?
sort of so 6 years or so, but she's not in
Oh,
any of
okay.
our band photos because we don't allow her to be seen. She's too sexy.
It doesn't fit with the general aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly. So, the rest of us look like tramps and dollies. Imagine people actually seeing us next to each other wouldn't believe she would go out with this tramp. So, but no, it's I'm just joking. Yeah, she isn't in the band photos because we haven't had any time to really integrate her into those just yet.
Yeah.
Recently, but the band's kind of quite expansive anyway, and there's lots of different formations of it. So
Yeah, I was
it's
going to
kind of
say there's
yeah.
moving parts in Quiet Marauder. Every time I see you guys, there's someone I don't recognize, or a different instrument, or four different percussive instruments, kind of thing. Yeah, it's
Mm.
I don't know, a revolving door, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean it's welcoming as well. It's not like we push them in and get them out again. It's like
No, of
they keep
course,
coming
yeah.
back, and and so like sometimes I'm sure they're stuck in there and they're just going round and round. But yeah, so our formation is quite simple for the next album. It's more folky. It's less sort of bombastic and rocky than Tiny Men Parts because of the
Right.
where we were really. But it's quite sort of richly instrumented because of the Burning Hell guys did play on it. They sort of
Oh, okay.
Errol didn't sing, or no one sang really, but they like the whole four of them were there. So we had like flute and piano from Jake Nickel, whose tenderest touches are just I was almost slobbering over how he played the piano because it's
Oh
like
man,
he was just brushing it with his fingers. It was insane. And then
amazing.
yeah, Darren's sort of playing this amazing electric guitar and bouzouki, and
Yeah,
yeah,
he's so talented.
they're all amazing. And like
Yeah, yeah.
I was kind of there, sort of thinking, I should explain all the complexity of these songs that I've written to them, just sort of in case they can't see the chord progression. It's like the way they look at me as I'm doing that. It's kind of I can't do it just to troll them now because I know that they're so sort of beyond that. And
They're just like, yeah, is that it?
can I just get on with the task now? Because I'm just going to listen to it and play it immediately without any instruction whatsoever.
It- Is there going to be a reverse collab at any point? Is the Quiet Marauder going to be on the Burning Hell, or has that already happened? Am I just being ignorant?
No, we haven't. Well, we've kind of been on. We've sung on a couple of their sort of Matthias's songs and
Yeah,
things. I think they released something over the holiday season, which was about other holidays other than the main holiday of the
right.
holidays. So, and
The holiday.
I think about four of us in From Quiet Marauder all sang various lines in a song called "Are They Even Aware It's a Bank Holiday," which is about Eastern European countries that have less bank holidays than the UK and Scotland particularly has 9.
Wow. I
So
thought
yeah,
that we didn't have that many bank holidays. I thought that other countries had more than us.
a lot of them do. Cambodia, I think it's got like 33 or something. It's like,
Man, wow.
I don't know what they're doing over there.
Not much, apparently.
They must have a lot of banks.
Oh, good stuff, man. Yeah, I wanted to jump back in your discography of Quiet Marauder, kind of touch some points along the way, because it's mental, for want of a better word. Like, it's amazing, and just like a back catalogue that I've never kind of seen before, all the way back from the start, where your first release, I wrote it down so I could actually kind of read it. So it reimagined footballer Alan Shearer as a time traveler turned deity inhabiting humanity's cultural memory after infiltrating all of our collective history.
It's a great
So that
description, isn't it?
that's an album.
Yeah, I mean that it was only an EP because we could only think of 5 songs about it in the end. But it was amazing we did that many because it was only one to start with. We did the song.
So originally you were going to fit that whole concept into one album. Sorry to interrupt. Not one album. Sorry, one song. One song.
Yeah, that's right. So it all started with Shearer Predator, which was when we kind of started forming a band because it was just me in a bedroom in Danescourt to start with, and I got Johnny on board and another guy called Matt, Johnny Day and Matt Pasternakajevich, and we
Right.
were just in this. They're great people. I love them to bits still, and they're kind of in London and Devon now. We don't see each other so much, but I miss them
Okay.
lots. And we had so much fun, like just at the start when it was just 3 of us in our little studio we were renting in Kings Road with Andrew Sanders and various other bands were sort of cooperating a bit. and
Yeah.
it was great. And we just basically came up with this a song which went, Alan, what'd you do today, Alan? Alan, what'd you do today, Alan? And it was just about Alan Shearer.
Yeah.
And then it sort of segued halfway through the song into Johnny shouting, "The communists are coming." And then there's this mood drop in the song where we just imply that Shearer's dead, and that was it really. And it doesn't go on very long.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. We knew what the concept was. We knew it was like a Raymond Carver short story. It was just this kind of intensity to it, where we knew the meaning of it, but you would only sort of grasp the meaning if you thought about it for a few minutes afterwards.
Right.
That was the intended effect. But then I kind of thought, actually, it's kind of difficult for us to do this, and it didn't really fit in with the album Men that much.
Yeah. It does seem different.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a natural sort of. It wouldn't flow into the rest of the song. So we decided we'd write a few more songs about Alan, but only 4 more. I think that's all we could manage. And so we sort of introduced the listener to Alan in the first song, and then we started then telling him about what happened after his sort of punditry on Match of the Day, and how he started becoming more visible through various points in history, like the Versailles Treaty and the atomic bomb going off. You can see Alan's like photobombing them now.
Just
He's
in the
everywhere.
background.
Yeah. And so it's only when he gets found out by the communists and taken down in 1987 that the whole thing sort of dissipates, but we can still remember Alan. All of us just think of him as this like god. And it's strange because I saw Alan. It's the first time I'd seen Alan Shearer was yesterday, like in a while, was yesterday, and it was like I've never seen him so happy.
Really?
And I just, it's like I normally he's such a dour man.
Yeah.
I tell you what, there's this one song on the Shearer EP where I was going through footage of him on YouTube to find like quotes so I could embed them in the songs as samples.
Okay.
And there's I implore you to find it and watch it yourself. There's a clip of him. It's really old, crappy looking footage, and it's from him reading from his own autobiography about how Blackburn won the Premier League, and that he's describing the moment when they won. But I've never heard a man describe anything so exciting and life changing in such a bored, monotonous way. It's insane what he's doing, and it's kind of like it's like a guy who's never read before. Almost, it's like so slow and painstaking. And I don't know. I'm not insulting. I don't want to insult him, but
no.
He may. I hope he has read before. But like, I mean, it definitely
impressive
doesn't.
If he hadn't.
Yeah.
Not only has he written an autobiography, but he's managed to read it back all without being able to read.
Yeah, it has got some of that element to it. It may be just because he was being very deliberate and slow for the presentation of it all. But I can't believe that clip existed, and it gave me so many gems because he's speaking so clearly and talking about excitement and things, and it's just like, but it sounds just like Alan Shearer being really bored. It's perfect juxtaposition. I loved it. It was one of my favourite processes, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. I'll have to track it down.
Mm.
But he does have that very particular quality, like you say, to even one of his, best experiences of life is just dour.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what it is. And so recently I saw him in Match of the Day, and he was like, he was having a good laugh with Ian Wright. And I was like, I've never seen that side of Shearer before. Like,
the happy Shearer.
Yeah, and so I wonder, like, maybe he's feeling liberated somehow from all of his sort of time traveling. Maybe this is our first sort of signifier that he's changing and morphing into like the power we knew he was going to be.
Could be. That'd be a big burden to be lifted.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's learned how to master time and space, and he's one of the most innocuous performers of that skill. No one would ever think he was capable of it.
True. Until I hear otherwise, that's the theory that I'm going with. That's what I'm sticking to. From there, I don't think it was your next release, but you've mentioned it a couple of times, kind of alluded towards the giant project that is Men. And so that was 111 tracks, is that right?
111, yeah. Because
over 4 volumes, yeah?
4 volumes, 4 CDs.
4 volumes,
we were looking at vinyl costs. It was too much in the end. We were for an unknown band, you know.
Because that was your debut album, yeah?
Yeah, so Alan Shearer's kind of self-released. You can only find that on our Bandcamp. So
Yeah, I couldn't see it anywhere. Well, I didn't go on your Bandcamp, obviously, but I couldn't find it on Spotify or anything.
no, it's not uploaded to there. It was never mastered really, so it's kind of just it sits there as these kind of demos, and so yeah, and then it was kind of about halfway through that we were sort of did Shearer anyway because we'd started doing Men quite a while before we released it. It'd gone on for about a year and a half because we were kind of just working out what we were as much as anything else, and all these songs were just coming out, and it was kind of mad how many songs were coming out,
Yeah,
especially because it was like a factory because two of us were working on it. It was churning them out, and each week we'd just have a new update, and we'd have like 7 one side and 4 on the other side, and it'd be
crazy. Because
it'd be
when I
great.
was reading about it, I was kind of thinking, like, is this like your total sum of songwriting up until this point? But clearly not. Like, you were churning them out kind of in the moment, again and again.
Yeah, and so it'd be kind of the ones which I particularly shedded a lot of songs from those sessions because I would demo them myself in my own place and sort of have them ready, and then we'd often just like think, oh, I can't really do much with them as a trio. And sometimes that wouldn't matter because I loved them so much, and other times I could tell by people's faces that they wouldn't quite work or they didn't think they were right. But then, yeah, likewise, I suppose there's a few like Johnny songs could be completely dark to the point of it like there being no fun in them whatsoever.
Wow.
So like, it's like, wow, that's like not nice.
It's just not fun to listen to.
No, and it made me uncomfortable. So I'm sure it must have worked both ways. And so the problem is I assumed control because that's just what I do in situations.
Right.
And so yeah, we kind of it was an amazing process, and I can't do it now. And I in a way I'm kind of glad because it was exhausting in lots of respects too, but it was fun, and we had at least like 150 songs we could have used.
Wow.
And then we had the Shearer EP separate to that, so it was like shedding those out was kind of easy because they were a lot of them were quite shit, but they were still there, and so yeah, and I think in the end we decided on 111 because I found out somebody had done 100 songs, and as we kind of we were that far in and we had that many, we could have done anything, but we decided just to go for 111.
111's a good number. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just it reminds me of cricket because I think it's like significant in cricket that you have a triple Nelson where you have the same number 3 times.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, that wasn't the reason why, but I do like cricket, and I know that, so
it
maybe
ticks that
it
box as well.
Yeah.
And it said on the page for Bubble Rap's page for men, that it was a Guinness World Record kind of embroilment as well for the longest debut album ever. Did that get resolved? Is it the Guinness World Record's longest album debut ever?
It's still unresolved. We're awaiting a time when they're prepared to monitor that particular record. I guess there must be lots of records happening all of the time.
Is there?
I don't know.
Is it a highly contested category?
Oh no! I don't think ours is. It's just I think we'd win if but it's just that they can only choose so many records like themselves to monitor. So like because they're like there's a guy who's like holding his breath in a tub of baked beans somewhere. For, like, and they've got to deal with all of these things. And so I messaged them about it, and they were in contact for a while. Yeah. And then they said that after like debating it, they felt like they couldn't monitor that record at this time, but they would be in touch.
But like you say, yeah, the guy holding his breath in a bath of beans, yeah, he's worthy of a Guinness World Record.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do that dirty job, and I'm glad it's not me.
One day, hopefully they'll come back to you. Now it's lockdown, and the Guinness kind of attempts have gone quiet. You never know. Maybe you'll get a cheeky email out of the blue or something.
Yeah, you never know, man. It'd be a beautiful day. I mean, I was never that fussed about it. I think it was. I think David Owens suggested that we get in touch with them.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, well, you know, like
it's publicity.
Why not try that? Like, yeah, I mean, but it doesn't really matter because online it pretty much says that we have got that anyway. So I think if it just shows if you believe in something and you write enough about it online, then it'll turn out to be true.
That is how the world works these days.
It is.
That's
It's
it.
QAnon, man. This is QAnon basics.
Oh, funny. I was going to say something about men before we moved on, but I can't remember what it is. Oh, about all the guests on there. There's so many
Yeah.
guests on there, like big names. Like My Name Is Ian, John Mouse, Jimmy Watkins, who's a alumni of Le Pod as well. Shout out Jimmy
Yeah.
Watkins, which is great. Like, how did all that come about? Was it just mates kind of getting together? Did you kind of reach out to people, or?
It was a lot of reaching out to people.
Yeah.
I reached out a lot, and some of it was kind of convenient because, like, Jimmy Watkins, for instance, knew my ex-housemate Matt Jarrett very well.
Oh,
lived
okay.
together.
Oh, you
I
used to
took
live with
over-
Matt Jarrett? I didn't know that.
I did, and
Oh.
I took over Jimmy's room actually. Jimmy
okay.
left me. Jimmy left me $1 from America and an Italian book that I couldn't read, and a plant growing in through my window. So it was a funny time.
Thanks, Jimmy.
But Jimmy came back and sort of just did the recording in my house like one day, and it wasn't even. I didn't even know really what Jimmy was at the time. But
Yeah.
Like, since then we sort of he's a lovely guy now. He's awesome. Running Punks. I just watch his Running Punks thing and just think Jimmy just is naturally suited to this particular thing.
Oh, perfectly. Yeah, like no one else on earth. I think he might have found his one person niche right there.
Exactly. It's like, wow, man, like, it's perfect. The only thing he could like do better is if it was also reading a graphic novel at the same time.
Yeah. One day.
But but the guests all just came about kind of from people I kind of knew. So I knew Ian. I know Ian really well as well because I lived with Ian too. So
because he even kind of seems like part of the band sometimes. Like he's gone again.
I do wonder if my girlfriend's watching Married at First Sight in Australia downstairs.
That's what it is.
Oh
well, sorry.
No.
Every time you go black now, I just remember in my mind what we were talking about, like a bookmark.
I got it too now. I think it may be the fourth attempt that like both of us learned the technique of going. I know exactly what I was talking about. I'm not panicked anymore. I think we've just normalized the process, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. Now you can cut out as many times as you want.
Yeah, so that's good. And so we were talking about Ian being in the band, and
exactly. I always see him on stage. Like he's, I kind of thought he was a member of Quiet Marauder for a while.
He is, and he still is, and a very crucial one as well. So because he kind of, when Johnny went to London, which is sort of maybe a 2014, 2015 time, Ian I asked to join to play guitar. Really,
right? Okay.
So Ian then sort of spirals out into do other roles, and he's a great singer. Like his voice is very suited to harmonies, and so he's really helped in sort of doing all of that stuff. But he's also just like to me, like he's a buddy, and we just hang out when we can. We used to hang out a lot more, obviously, but he's kind of just in terms of music for me, he's kind of a checkpoint where you go to and you see like, this is what I'm doing. What do you think of this? And I think he does the same to me as well. So I think we've got like a mutual respect, and I think that's great. It's perfect for us, and it's good to have that in the band as well because it kind of helps with the politics of it all. So.
Yeah. I can imagine the politics could get kind of interesting with such a changing lineup and so many members in the band and stuff. Yeah.
Well, we all have fun, man, and we're all the best of buddies. Really, it's just kind of like, I think we don't get together often enough, and so and if Ian thinks something's going shit, then he'll say, like, I think it's going shit, and so. And as a helpful sort of pointer, because often it's similar to when I think things are going shit too. So,
that's good. At least you're on the same track together. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I have doubts, and often they're reinforced by Ian. So, and that's kind of, and I say that in a positive way because I think like if you have doubts a lot of the time when I'm writing songs, then you should probably like not necessarily follow them up.
Right. Yeah. I guess so.
If you're having other ideas, I mean, in terms of like, say when I was doing men songs, if I started writing a song and I had like about a dozen more lined up behind me and it wasn't working, I'd just go, oh, come on, let's get the next one there. Let's do a different one. Because I suppose maybe for other people it's different, but that seems to be how it works for me. I know when a song's not going to work in the end, like maybe sort of probably about halfway through, attempting it like maybe the 15th time, you just think, oh, there's no way to change this, you know.
Yeah,
Whereas other
yeah.
songs you can sort of mold and craft, but into something else. But a lot of the
Some just
time,
don't work.
yeah, you just throw them or shred them,
Yeah.
shred them, eat them, and then shred them out.
Do you think that's a symptom of like having so many songs though? Because I feel like other people might not have so many songs in their kind of armory, and so they like persevere for longer. They will kind of try with all their might to make this work, whereas you might be like, like you say, I got 20 more behind me. Do you think that
Yeah, I
could be
mean,
the case, or?
it was. I think it was at one point in time, but in fairness, that was at the start, and so it felt like you had no real sort of barometer of what anything meant anyway. So you kind of had to be a bit more instinctive,
Yeah,
and so I guess like now, to me, often things just fall apart at step one. Like I was saying in terms of like things earlier on, you have to step
yeah,
one where you work out your concept, and then so if something doesn't, it's more like things just don't fit inside that for me, and that's why they won't work, and I'll toss them away for that reason. It's not because they're like not a song. I wouldn't shred them in a literal sense. I kind of, you
yeah.
might put. I normally have like a little pot of songs which don't fit anywhere, and they're just kind of there,
You
and
just
they
kind of
probably,
wait and sit
yeah. And at
and
some point,
stew.
things might well just like turn around and it becomes relevant again. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't recommend shredding your songs
No, it's not good
unless
for them.
parental supervision is required. And I think like you say, it's not like recently. It's certainly been more specific for me, and so I kind of know that it's not so much that a song won't work; it's just that the way I'm approaching that particular song won't work at that stage, and so
Right.
my approach can go and have to change. You know, I've got to do something different with that. But
Yeah.
nowadays, it's more like the song has to happen. The song
Yeah.
is essential, and so it's not so much. Look, Men was a bit weird because there were so many, and so it's more definitely the other way around these days, where
Right.
like it's just more about the approaches you shed until you get to the one that you need that song to be, because the song
Yeah.
itself is kind of fixed by like the concept, and so you just have to write that song.
Right. You just have to make it work.
Yeah, you have to
Interesting.
find a way, and
Com-
so
Interesting. Yeah. I wanted to talk because you've touched kind of slightly on like the topics that you tried to cover. I don't know if you tried, but that you covered during the songs of men. Um, but like some of them seem kind of humorous as well. Like they make me smile, they make me laugh, and I've always thought that humor in music is kind of a weird thing. You know what I mean? Like it's almost looked down upon. Like it's one of the emotions that isn't as critically acclaimed as the other
mm,
emotions. Like if a song makes you cry or whatever, then it's it makes me cry. Like it's such a good song. But if a song
mm,
makes you laugh, it's kind of seen as like I don't know, a ditty, like a children's song or whatever. I'm not really sure why. Like
mm.
I don't know what you kind of think about that.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I've always valued the comedy of songs. I loved the Bonzo Dog Doo-Dah Band. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like there was a point where I was exposed to them when I was 16 or something. I thought I'd never heard like music that wasn't earnest, like in the
right,
sense like it
yeah,
was, because I was probably about like 12 or something, maybe a little bit older. But most music to me is like either sort of either just really bad, like pop, which you can't take
yeah,
seriously,
yeah,
or
yeah,
just kind of like so earnestly cliched that it was kind of like it's almost not funny at all.
yeah,
It's kind of funny in a different sense, but it's kind of like all these songs are the same, like they all sound
yeah,
the same, and they're all talking
yeah,
about the
yeah.
same thing. And so, yeah, I mean, the Bonzos, just because they did things in a really funny way, masked, I think, a lot of the social commentary that's embedded in their
Exactly. I
material.
think you're right.
Yeah, and so what they did was the humor was mask this social commentary that was like really, really smart and really clever, and very much of its time, but still like at that time very contemporary and like you say, like, social and political almost.
Yeah, yeah.
And I kind of feel like just generally you can hit people off guard if you make them laugh and then tell them something sad.
For sure, yeah. Like you can make a point without them even knowing that you're trying to make a point.
Yeah, and I think to me it softens the it softens your sort of mood towards something if you've laughed at the person who's telling you something and then they
Yeah,
tell you something bad's just happened to them. You kind of
yeah,
just you feel a bit more emoted towards kind of helping them, or feeling like, I don't know, like you've been compromised. I find that when I listen to other things which have kind of made me laugh in a song, like BC Camplight's a good example. His new album is amazing. It's always one from last year.
Yeah.
And it blends this kind of like really sad lines with just commentary about him watching Die Hard 2 for the 38th time, and you go like,
Yeah.
I love that sort of intricacy and the detail and the monotony of it, but it makes me laugh, him telling me that he's watched Die Hard 2 38 times, and then later on he's telling his mum that he wants to kill himself. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of the emotion of that sort of is more impactful, I think, because he's made you laugh at the start, because the song itself is kind of constructed in a way where it's doing that to you. It's going, I'm relatable, but I'm also quite sad.
Yeah. And it makes it more real, more authentic, true to life. That's how life is. Like, you don't kind of, not often do you have a whole day where it's filled with hilarity and good times, or a whole day where it's filled with just darkness and depths. You know what I mean? Obviously there are exceptions, but that's how life is. Like, it's filled with peaks and troughs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, life is so complex. It's just
Yeah.
like you can have, and the problem I have with it is that I can't even self-monitor it effectively. So I don't even know
Yeah.
how complex it is. I know that I can be in a bad mood, and then like 5 minutes later, not even remember that I was in a bad mood.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen, but like Christ knows how often that happens. And so I'm probably changing my own sort of exteriors or presentation, maybe every few minutes, and I've got no idea like what I am. What is my identity? I'm able to
Yeah.
talk to you, but I sometimes really worry. Maybe it's the pandemic. I'm overthinking it, but yeah, it's like I often just think, am I even me?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I've thought that as well. And there's been times throughout life where, like, I'll have this opinion, and it seems very set, very this is what I believe. And then a few months or years down the line, I'll do a complete 180,
Yeah,
complete kind of, wow, I don't believe that anymore. That's really strange. And then, yeah, like you say, who am I?
yeah. And it's odd because we kind of, it's always encouraged that we've got this kind of know yourself attitude. Like you know your own identity, and that'll be what empowers you. And it's like the more I know my own identity, the more I know that it's completely not fixed. And so,
Yeah.
like, that lack of
Yeah.
knowledge frightens me.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, I just think life's too complex to start thinking too much about most things. And so, unless you really want to, and then it's kind of fine. But otherwise, if it's starting to trouble you, just give up on it and then start thinking about something else. Because you could, everywhere you look, literally every single thing you look at is going to be more complex than you could ever imagine. And it's
Yeah.
going to have like way more stories attached to it than you could
Yeah.
ever think. So
Yeah. Did
it's
this
just
kind of thinking kind of was this kind of thinking inspired by Men and Tiny Men parts? Was it kind of like exploring what it is to be a man and masculinity, kind of a part of like the who am I line of thinking that we were talking about, or is it separate?
I think it might. I'm not sure if it was like the intention or the effect in the end, because it was like it was kind of just like we'd heard lots of lad banter, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and it is the more you sort of delve into the meanings of that, then the more sort of like just strange it seems, and like
Yeah.
chat up lines as well are just like
Oh man.
what do they do, and how do they have such a sort of success rate that they're
Yeah.
continually used again and again. I
Yeah.
just find it's so bizarre, and so a lot of the ideas were coming from that, and so we produced these songs written from all these perspectives. And then in the end, I wasn't sure if like which one of them was mine anymore, or whether I was taking on other people's roles and
Yeah.
performing all these characters. And so a lot of the songs on there, I don't think are really representative of anything that I would think or say most of the time. Well,
Really interesting.
but then sometimes I say that, but then obviously it's in my brain, so
Yeah. It literally came from your brain. Yeah.
and so maybe I'm just there may have been times where I had said that, and then I probably wouldn't do them now. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of like
Yeah.
I look back on it with a bit of a state of horror, maybe that I sort of acted in certain ways in some of those songs, but definitely not all of those songs I've acted out in any way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that would be mad. That would involve having people in my car boot. I'd killed like dozen cats.
True.
That's not happened. So
Yeah,
like, definitely some of it's about extremes.
there's toxic masculinity, and then there's serial murder, and there's a definite line between them.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think the point of that whole album was the sort of the sort of state of the gradient, and like how like
Yeah,
this sort of that's this toxic masculinity element, isn't it? It's sort of like it spreads from this kind of seemingly innocuous start point
mm-hmm.
to being something kind of really dark and nasty.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's kind of how much do we normalize these bits? And I guess like it preceded a lot of the Me Too movement and things like that. But
yeah.
it was kind of like something that I studied at university and stuff like that. So and what people told me as well about what men do to women and what women report back, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
have to listen to that to some degree.
Yeah,
And so, but we were just like three men sort of giving it from our perspective. Like we were only capable of representing so much, but then, and from our angle. And so
yeah.
the songs can come across to me now, I suppose, as being sort of like, we are these monsters. But in
Yeah.
reality, it's like a response to the stories that we hear. And so, yeah, to me, those songs are kind of more like a critique of that than it being oh yeah,
Confession of any kind.
this is what we do on a
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. And I'm not sure if we've even stated it during this conversation, but Tiny Men Parts is kind of a selection of the songs from Men. Yeah.
Hmm.
So how did you go about selecting that selection? How did you choose them? How did you cut it down from 111 to what is it, 9 now?
Yeah, 9.
Yeah.
So, well, it's really only 8 because I Want a Mustache, Dammit is on it twice.
Oh,
Tiny
is
Man
it?
Part. Yeah, we got a dance remix version and the
Oh,
normal
okay.
version, and so it's. But we just kind of basically we wanted to make it like a band EP. So the band that have played in Cardiff and around
Oh, I
for most
see.
of we kind of just wanted it to be that sound, and so we kind of just went with what would be our natural set list.
Yeah, yeah.
If we weren't playing any songs apart from the Men songs, then what would we play from Men? And so yeah, those were the 8 songs that fitted
I
that because
see.
and so that was the logic behind it. So there was not really. That's why it's kind of separate from most other things. Because there's no particular conceptual reason as to why those songs are laid out
Yeah.
in that way or put together, other than the fact that we tried to separate them starting in the same way with the drums.
So that
And
was the
so
main qualifier.
yeah, and so yeah, that was kind of it. And yeah, I think that a lot of the topics are covered in those songs too. And
Yeah.
so to me, the sort of emblematic ones are kind of I Want a Mustache, Damn It. That's
Hmm.
the one which to me condensed the idea almost. It was at the point of writing that where you kind of thought, oh, actually, this is kind of making a bit more sense to me now. How this is all going to work. And so it's those songs, and there's other bits of the oddities and fun songs which didn't really fit that naturally into the narratives, like eggs and things
Eggs,
like
yeah.
that. And this whole animal tangent that we went into about the animals spying
I
on
was
you,
spying on this.
mainly we kind of justified that as being sort of mental health, kind of well-being kind of issues that sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
someone's going through after sort of exposure to various substances. And
It's
so,
going back to eggs for a second. Is there
mm.
a underlying meaning in eggs that I'm just not picking up on, or
No,
no? Good.
that was inspired because I wrote about 5 songs from a stag do that I went on with one of my best mates from school called Dan. I think we went to Devon, and
Okay.
the guy I was living with at the time was a Texan called Corbett. He was
All
an
right.
amazing character, but we were living together in the suburbs of Cardiff called Danescourt,
Yeah, yeah,
and no one else lives there apart from old people, really.
yeah.
Which is I've got nothing against those guys. In fact, a big up to them all. But like, it's strange living in that context when
Hmm.
you're not one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and me and he were just unique like that. And so we were driving back together to his house, and there was a Radio 4 documentary on about
Right.
eggs, and it was solely about eggs.
No
Uh,
way.
and I
Wow.
was feeling like pretty sick because I'd drunk way too much like the night
Yeah.
before, and just the motion sickness generally. I'm not normally that bad with it, but on that particular day it was awful. And the guy just kept saying eggs, and it was just turning like my stomach every time he was saying it. And it went on for like 2 hours, and
Oh God, it's the
it's
car
like
journey from hell.
yeah. And I was he was saying a lot of different types of eggs as well. So some of them, the lyrics of eggs are just extracted directly from it, especially Greek eggs. I remember mentioning Greek eggs. And I was thinking, what specifically about Greek eggs is important? Because I don't get it
Yeah.
still.
Well, I guess if you're doing a whole 2-hour documentary on eggs, you kind of plumb the depths of all kinds of eggs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I decided I'd go on that journey with him. And I was kind of taking notes as I was going through it. But then it was kind of just the idea of the song was like, there were a few songs in that period of the album where people are just irrationally fixated on certain things. And so
right.
it was about that kind of dependency on something that isn't kind of drugs,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of fills the gap that you have when you don't do that, and you have done it for a while. And so it's
Right.
kind of like the animals spy on people and the eggs. There's another one about a guy who wants to learn the name of every dinosaur, and so he wants to go on You Bet because he's kind of so fixated about it. And You Bet's not on anymore. But so he's got nowhere to go with that skill.
No, I don't even know what it is. What's You Bet?
Do you not remember You Bet? It was a great
No.
TV show. Oh man, it was like on ITV, probably in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
And
A game show, is it? Or
a game show, yeah. And so you'd have people who would you'd have a set of celebrities, and they would be then confronted by the participants who would have a pre-designated skill that
okay.
they would say they were going to achieve. And so one guy, this is my
Ah,
favorite one, he could recognize the make and model of a car by its car door shutting on
no
the passenger
way.
side.
Well, I thought you were going to say like the exhaust sound or something. I've got
No,
a friend
it's
that could do that. The car door shut. Wow.
yeah, it is. And he said I can do 50 cars without seeing the car and just by the car door shutting. And people were going like, that's impossible. But he did
That's
it.
crazy.
It was like, yeah, I know. I still don't know if that was just like, that can't be real. Surely that
Wow.
can't.
I'm gonna have to
But
YouTube
like,
this. YouTube
yeah,
the
no.
Alan Shearer thing and You Bet now. I've got a YouTube list forming.
Honestly, You Bet was a great show, man. It's like, it's as good as stars in their eyes, you know. It's kind of, it's on that kind of level. So yeah, but yeah, so this kind of fixation that you have though, and people can get irrationally fixated, and it's kind of like a hobby, but it kind of turns like a bit. Oh, they kind of like they've got a lot of that now, like cats or something. You know, if someone has
Yeah.
lots of cats, you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
are
yeah.
you? It stops being kind of, oh, that's nice. It starts becoming like, oh, are you okay? Do we need to do
Do you need
something
help?
about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm not saying it is a problem, but I'm just saying like it starts
That's how it can be
raising
seen.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you probably want to go and watch Married at First Sight as well.
Oh, I can't wait, man. It's like I think my girlfriend like loves moments like this where I'm not around, so it's kind of like a sort of she can just scavenge this kind of dirt off the ground, and then
Guilt free.
I don't think I won't. I will not engage with it, but I'll happily have it on in the background. She wants me to engage though. It's kind of like, but it's just like I'll only engage negatively. I can't. The best you're going to get from me is nothing.
And then you'll be
Like,
rebuked if you engage negatively.
oh God. It's been 10 months of this, man.
I know, and who knows how many more
I
roll out
know,
the
man. Oh
vaccine.
God, I can't even
You'll
bear
be
to
all
think
right.
about it.
You'll
But no,
survive.
I've adjusted incredibly well, so I'm sure it's going to be just the adjustment back to the other way, like
Yeah.
whatever normal used to be. This is my normal now.
Yeah, true. Whatever that was. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I wanted to talk about the future slightly. We've already said about the new album, which
yeah,
obviously
we
is
have.
exciting. Happy days. And then you have a show. Is it still scheduled at the pub? Your show on June 3rd?
I
Hopefully
believe
still
so.
happening. Yeah.
Fingers crossed, man. I really, really can't wait. If that
Me
does happen,
too.
it'd be beautiful. But obviously, I don't know how Sam's sort of doing in terms of those kind of things, or if the world will allow it. But like, I'd love to
Yeah.
play with Dick. Dick Valentine is a legend, and so I'd love to play with him again.
Oh, yeah. Have
Yeah.
you played with him before?
Oh yeah, we did a little while
Oh,
ago, probably about 2 or 3 years ago.
nice.
And so yeah, but we'd probably be. I think Jarrett, my ex housemate,
Yeah,
organised the
yeah.
gig. And so I think we're going to do a more acoustic thing. So we might do songs from
Okay.
The Gift for that.
Ah,
Actually,
nice. Cool. Yeah. Are you going to
yeah. So I
play
think
some stuff from Tiny Men Parts as well, or
I doubt it because, like I
no?
say, it's kind of, I'm not sure we'd be allowed to have drums. And so what we might do is
Oh,
just kind
yeah.
of try and do that when with like Kadisha doing singing on it, and we might do some like acoustica versions of like Tiny Men Part songs.
Right.
But I think we probably will have to play without drums because that has been requested. So it's
Is it
like a
really
transformer. Yeah, I think so.
requested
It,
from like a COVID perspective, or Dick Valentine, or what?
I think it might be Dick Valentine, maybe,
Oh,
but I don't know.
okay.
It might. I don't know that. It's just Jarrett said like he would prefer us
No
to
drums.
do acoustic
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of stuff. Because I think last time we did play with Dick Valentine, we were a band, and then he
Mm-hmm.
did do an acoustic show, and I kind of he loved us, and
Yeah.
we loved him. But it's kind
Yeah.
of you do feel a bit bad because I wasn't sure if kind of we kind of over like sounded him like
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
was kind of
A bigger
obviously
sound.
everyone's there to go see Dick Valentine. They're not coming here
Of course,
to
yeah.
see us. But like I mean, at the same time, it's kind of bad etiquette in a way. I think sometimes if you've got a big band and then you've got like an acoustic duo sort of
Yeah, yeah.
headliner, it does sort of like I don't know. I often feel like if I'm watching that, then it's not necessarily fair on those guys. I think
No, I know
my
what you mean,
ears
man.
hurt after those guys.
Yeah. Well, I hope
So
that it still happens anyway, for sure. Like, I'm pretty sure it's still gonna happen. June, I don't know. June might be slightly optimistic, but
it's touch and go. I mean, failing that, we've got another gig. I think hopefully in November, which
okay.
we're really hoping will go ahead, and that's when the
Yeah,
Burning Hell will come back
surely.
to. Surely by then, man, Christ!
I
I mean,
know.
unless we get into another winter, that's the problem. It's
Ugh.
probably like a sweet spot of sometime around September, August,
Yeah,
and I
right in
think
the
like,
middle.
and then any other time of the year is just never going to work. But like, I mean, hoping that by November we'll be fine. Hoping by
Yeah,
June we'll be fine. And yeah, both those guys are like heroes of mine. Like obviously Dick Valentine's a legend, Electric Six, I
absolute
absolutely adore.
legend.
And
Yeah.
Johnny even adores like that. When we were forming the band, like Johnny was talking about Dick Valentine, Electric Six a lot. So
Oh, wow. So
and
influence
he's
right from the beginning.
yeah, he's a huge fan, and so he's probably bigger than me even. And so it's kind of really nice to sort of play with him again, and
Yeah,
nice to know
sure.
it kind of works when we do.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then playing with the Canadian dudes, the Burning Hell is just like one of the sweet spots for us. It's
that's
like it's
awesome.
perfect.
Where
Where
is
they
that
are.
November gig? Because you played with them. I'm sure you played with them at Tiny Rebel
That's
last
right.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Is it Tiny
So
Rebel again, or?
no, it's going to be in club, I think, because it just seemed
Okay.
like the safest bet at that stage to go with like somewhere kind of established that's kind of definitely going to be doing gigs.
Yeah.
So and also yeah, because I suppose it's if we're looking to support music venues primarily, then it's kind of like yeah, let's go for like the main music venue here,
Yeah.
and it's both safest for us and hopefully safest for everyone else as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where we're planning on doing it, and so that's kind of have been booked, but it's sort of yeah, we're just fingers crossed still that it's going to work out.
As is everything in the music industry at the moment, I guess.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. I really hope it sorts itself out, man. Like, there's a lot of people suffering way more than I am, definitely. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just waiting, whereas other people are genuinely struggling. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. I kind of every episode of this, I kind of begrudge and moan about, oh, there's no gigs, but it's just so not high up on the list of priorities. It's
no.
yeah,
I mean,
important to keep
in a way, it
perspective
is. I mean, I'd love it if like we could have gigs. It'd be so amazing.
for sure.
Like
Yeah,
it'd be a real like shot in the arm, not a
Y-
vaccine, but like a complete like steroid inducing amazing sort of state of chaos that would
yeah,
happen.
yeah, yeah.
But like
On,
I mean, yeah, like you say, it's kind of well-being is really important, and I think like gigs form a massive part of people's well-being,
oh
like
man,
in certain
100%.
communities.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you're
so,
right.
to me, it's sort of as important as opening schools for this group of people. It's just that
Yeah,
it's not as important for opening schools for the rest of society. But
yeah,
it's kind of like it doesn't stop it being important. And like, yeah, to me, I love going to gigs, but even then, it's more important for like people who are getting paid to go and do like regular gigs, who are doing tours and shit like that,
yeah,
who
exactly. That it is
absolutely rely on it. And
yeah,
like,
their bread and butter.
I can survive without, but like I love playing gigs and it'd be great. But it's more about sort of yeah, you kind of got to concentrate your priorities on like economic well-being first, I suppose. And like for those
It's the
guys,
unfortunate
it's
truth.
sad times,
Sad
but
times, man.
we'll survive them all together.
We will, together as part of this musical family. Yeah. Cool. We'll end it there, man. Yeah, fingers crossed that the shows go ahead. Is there like a place that people can find out more about Quiet Marauder and buy tickets, maybe, if they're on sale?
Yeah, so I think the pub, I think is probably selling tickets for Dick
Yeah, it's on
Valentine.
the pub website. Yep.
The club gig is as yet unformally scheduled, so it's
Yeah.
kind of, I think they're going through the ticket process in the next month or two. So it's kind of it's just been booked, and now they're looking to send over posters and assets and whatnot.
Okay.
It's a new word that I learned from
Assets.
the communication I got involved in. It's like, can you send over your assets? And I went, oh, what does he mean?
Wow, that's very
But
professional.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to find out though.
Waiting to find out if Quiet Marauder have any assets.
I hope so, man. I feel like we've built up a massive array of assets. We've got a huge portfolio of assets. Surely
You've
by
just
now.
got to try and work out how to send them.
Yeah, and what exactly is included.
Class.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, man. And hopefully I'll see you at one of those gigs.
Yeah, take care, man. Thanks so much. It's been fun. Sorry about the cutouts, but hopefully you can stitch it all together.
All good. I can't now because you just mentioned it at the end. Now they're going to know.
Oh, man, shit. Can we redo the ending? Let's restitch that onto the ending again.
Nope, this is it. This is the real ending.
Oh,
this is what's going out.
I can't believe we survived all of that just to end on that.
Nice one, man.
Anyway, take
easy.
care, Ben. It's been lovely, man. Thanks so much.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.